Well, this morning, because not got enough shit to deal with, I was awoken by a buzzing next to my room, which is my dad's room, and outside. And when I looked outside, there was a massive swarm of black and yellow. There was bees all over my dad's window trying to get into the house. And that was dealt with the entire morning. It was loud, it was scary, and all we needed to do, because I was gonna do this stupid thing and open the window and try and close it, but Dad said, "No, no, you'll let them in even more. They'll just go away if we leave them alone." And he's dealt with this a lot because we've had 3 bee infestations in our house during our lifetime. 3. Count them.
3 of them.
3 of them. 3 bees, 1 wasp infestation, and I shit you not, 2 hornet infestations we didn't know
Oh,
about.
fuck. Oh, God.
And I'll tell you something actually. I'll tell you something is this, the hornet infestation, much nicer than the bees. That's how much that's how much bees are freaking overrated, because the hornets with
No,
their are
no,
nightmare
no.
creatures, but they gave us less trouble than the fucking bees.
Look, I don't know what you did to piss the bees off, but bees are
Why is
usually.
it my fault? Why are you victim blaming
It's gonna
me?
be your fault somehow. Bees are
I held
usually chill
myself
at
back. I
night.
held myself back when you said that you had a traumatic experience by falling on a bee's nest. I was gonna make the joke and
A
say,
wasp's
"Well,
nest.
you fell on their house, so therefore you deserved it." But I didn't, because that would be victim blaming, and what you're doing right now is victim blaming. It's the bee's fault that this happened.
Look, bees are usually chill. They usually don't hurt people. I don't know how you have allied yourself with the wasps
They've
and
just
against
got
the
a
bees
good
here,
PR
but
campaign. That's all it is. Like they've made a deal with Big Pharma, all right, and like they've just convinced everybody that they're wonderful creatures that produce the nice honey that their babies live in. But it's wrong. It's wrong. They've done nothing but cause pain and misery for this family.
look, I can't believe you're doing this classism against bees. Bees are workers, gentle laborers. They're doing a revolution, and you're working against them. This seems pretty
What were they
classist.
doing? Were they working when they were just doing it? They were just like, you know what that was? You know what happened this morning? It was a show of power. They're like the police, okay? Like, if we showed any sign of force, they would have come and stung us to death, all right? We
They
had
are
to
not the
wait for them
police.
to go away.
You are Marie Antoinette, and they're the French Revolution right outside your door. You've been stealing their honey for too long, and they're fucking mad about it.
You're tearing
They're
this
coming for
podcast
you.
apart, Lee! Anyway, fuck the bees.
Fuck the wasps.
Wasps, I will die on this hill. Wasps are important to our ecosystem. Without them, we
Bees
wouldn't
are more important to the ecosystem. Come on here.
no, fuck off. Like, are they more important to my ecosystem? No. Like, they don't produce honey, they produce annoyance and death. Like all they do is just they freeload off our flowers and they'll sting you if you take their lovely honey. Whereas wasps, they don't even have any of those presumptions. Okay. Also, wasps are allies, because one time when we had a bee infestation, we got a bunch of wasps and they were very quiet, very polite. Went in, killed all those bees, and we never heard from them again. They even came down and brought us a nice cup of tea and said, "How are you doing there? You okay? We got rid of those bees for you." And then they went back up in the wasps. We never saw them again. Wasps are allies.
Are you a madman? Are you paranoid? Are you an entrepreneur? All of the above. What is that? What is that? What is it? Oh, no, not the beast! Not the beast! Ah! I love
Hello and welcome to the Lot to Unpack Here podcast. I'm Lee, also known as Bewildered Bee, and with me I have Alice.
Hi, I'm Alice Shelley Forbes.
And Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex. Wasp rights.
Bee rights. No rights
Wasp
for wasps.
lives matter.
No, they don't. They really don't. So we got
You
a
would
lot to
say
get.
that as a bee.
Yeah, I would say that as a bee. Yes, as the bee representative of the show. So we got a lot to get into today, because today's episode is on the topical theme of statues. Alex, you want to start us off?
Okay, I'm gonna start with the controversial statue that started a lot of discourse off of just the current statue discourse in the UK. The the memorial statue of Edward Colston and his desecration by Antifa.
Can't believe we've done this.
Yeah, I know. What's next? Being accountable for your history of slavery?
Yeah, fucking
Yeah.
unbelievable.
I I wanted to start by talking a little bit about who Edward Colston was because I doubt, even after all of the media attention that he's gotten, uh, many people outside of Bristol know who this guy was, but outside of him being a slave trader. But in all honesty, there really isn't that much to tell outside of that. Like he really did make most of his life be about slaves, which is interesting considering that his history of being a slaver wasn't really common knowledge until 1920, it turns out. There was a considerable campaign to downplay or outright whitewash that history. And yeah, there's been a huge, bigging up of his philanthropic works, being a charitable man, but there is a reason for that. But most of it is just slavery from
Yeah,
what I've found of it.
like literally all I, as someone outside of England, but who is pretty extremely online know about this guy, is that like he was racist and did slavery. That's like
Yeah,
all I know
pretty
about him.
much. I mean, I'd like to say some other I mean, I will say some other things that he did, but yeah, basically slavery is what I'm saying.
Oh, what? The aristocratic lot, like trying to protect their own from like being held accountable? I never would have guessed it, especially in Britain, the most unaristocratic country ever. You know?
I mean, no, he also, in fairness, he did also, he traded in textiles, oils, wine, people. But yeah, the main thing that defined his career, he was a successful sea merchant before all of this. He comes from a long line of merchants. He was already quite a rich
Sea
person, and he
merchant.
became richer. Yeah.
Seaman.
Wow,
Yes.
it's extremely mature.
In
Only mature political discourse here.
in 1680, Colston became a member of the Royal African Company, and that's an organization that held the monopoly in England for trading gold, silver, ivory, and slaves off the west coast of Africa. Uh, This is arguably the most
Classy.
this is arguably the most successful and longest association Colston had in his entire life. His involvement spanned 12 years, 1 year of which he was deputy governor.
12 years a slave owner.
I know, the irony, right?
12 years a slave owner.
Yeah. Again, I'm not making this up. I did the maths on this. It's just very ironic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to point that out. It was 12 years of his entire life. When people, try and downplay, say, "Oh, it was just, a couple of years," like, just well, they all had involvement in the slave trade back in the day, because it was so ingrained. No, 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 no. This guy was deputy governor of the company for a year.
Oh, wow.
Like, he was deeply involved in this company, and he knew exactly what it was about, and he was absolutely happy with what was going on. Like, he was
Hashtag baller. What a SuccessWin story. Inspiration for capitalists everywhere.
During these years, it's estimated that over 84,000 Africans were taken from their homes and shipped to America to be forced to work on the plantations. 19,000 of which, that's nearly 20% of the people they forced on this journey, died on the way over there. Their deaths were due to captains being instructed by the company to buy as many slaves as the ship could possibly carry, to the point of every captured human being crammed into the ship on a nightmare voyage of sleeping chained in their own filth, disease spreading, without any medical provision, suicides, violence, and murder. All in the pursuit of maximizing profits, transporting as many African lives into the hell of American slavery. Just I just wanna say that, Coulson knew this was happening and he instructed this to happen. Meanwhile, in Bristol in 1683, during this time, Eddie joins the Society of Merchant Venturers. Weird name, might hear it again. In 1684, Ed inherits his brother's merchant business and became a partner in a sugar refinery noted for having its sugar produced by slaves from St. Kitts in the West Indies. So, even more slavery. Ed was also a Tory high churchman, and this did not go down well with the Whig Corporation of Bristol, who were in charge at the time. But
Oh
Ed,
yeah, the
yep,
boys, the Whigs.
but Ed managed to keep sweet with them by transferring a huge portion of his original shareholding to William III, thus securing the supremacy of the African Trading Company and ultimately growing his shares' value and power in the political sphere. I'm sure that will have no lasting consequences.
Definitely only hasn't recently been paid off, you know?
What a baller, #SuccessWin. He out there doing it.
You know, as John McAfee would say, he's an entrepreneur.
Yeah, he's an entrepreneur, yeah.
After
Uh,
this, Ed began to donate huge amounts to charitable causes, which is what he's noted for, as well as the slavery. Uh, which is not clear how much he actually donated over his life compared to, profiting off human suffering by running the slave trade.
Yeah, like that money he donated, that was fucking blood money.
Yeah,
Like he made a lot of people suffer and die for that. Like just putting it back in some charity isn't gonna make up for what he did.
it's estimated that he donated at least £70,000, which was virtually millions in those days. But again, yeah, he's still a rich man, and the vast majority of that money came from sending human beings to their deaths, including children. So, well, basically, his donations can be seen all over Bristol to this day. He created the Colston Almhouses, which housed up to 12 people. Uh, you know, a centre to house the poor, disabled, and elderly. The Colston Almhouses, the trustees of the almhouses today and back then were the Society of Merchant Venturers. Heard that name again. A lot of his charitable ventures are still open to this day, including Colston School, then known as Colston Hospital, which opened with a huge endowment in 1710 from Edward Colston that was to be managed by the Society of Merchant Venturers. And that led to the Colston Girls' School being opened by the Society of Merchant Venturers. Hmm. And anyway, even outside of the Society of Merchant Venturers, his name can be seen on hospitals, monuments, charitable organisations everywhere around Bristol. And he did this as these immense acts of charity, which he stated was essential for all rich people to do. He had to give back to the less fortunate in their communities as a good Christian man. He said that while still being an active and central role in the slave trade, and it's worth noting that none of his charitable ventures in his lifetime addressed any of the lives in of black Africans that he sent to their deaths or for a lifetime of torture, and for their descendants for hundreds of years. He kept it local, basically. Uh, And he's also defended as a hero of the white working class by a few people who, in my honest opinion, should be put in pens away from BBC journalists until they can think about their actions. But they don't tend to mention that one of his big charitable efforts was to open workhouses for poor people.
Oh.
Which, even if your only history education is reading Oliver Twist at GCSE, you would recognise that that's a bad thing. Workhouses are not good.
No, my only not gonna lie, my only historical reference for workhouses, besides the names kind of sounding bad, is a fucking Scrooge, like the with the free ghosts. That's my only reference. That's how I know workhouses are bad.
basically, they were very cramped places for the economically disadvantaged. Mostly children, if we're being honest. And it's just just a whole lot of yikes. This problem would later get solved in the Victorian era, sort of,
Yeah.
a little
There
bit.
were basically
Uh,
slave labor camps for poor people, and just
yeah,
abandoned people, just destitute people who had no else to go. They would just cram them into these places and force them to work without pay. So in a sense, Colston, if anything, was an equal opportunity slaver. Because he also
You know what?
enslaved
Good
white
for him.
people. Yeah, you know, he didn't discriminate. You know,
Yeah, he's one of those edgy like Twitter people who are like, hey, I hate everyone
yeah,
equally.
I'll enslave white people, you know, from my own land, and I'll enslave everyone else. You know,
Yeah, this is starting to read as like a Netflix special called like Cancelled or Triggered or
well, I
something.
mean, he was cancelled eventually. He was cancelled into the river.
Oof.
Oh yeah, that's how we should cancel
Remember,
everyone.
eyes on the prize, lads. We got to get Maggie Thatcher into the river.
You know what? You know what the crazy thing is? But Maggie Thatcher does make a guest appearance in this. What I've written down.
Oh,
Ooh, okay.
Okay,
Finally, some woman power.
girl boss.
Girl boss.
Anyway, okay. Even after opening workhouses, sending slaves from Africa to America, generally being a piece of shit, but giving of it to charity in between all of that. It's also worth noting that Ed, even after he officially left the Royal African Company in 1692, he continued to trade slaves privately, and right up until his retirement in 1708. Dude just loved trading slaves.
How? How? Okay. How do you retire from being a slave trader?
Apparently not, because it was
Like-
well, I mean, I think that he was he just got a bit tired and he went into politics, and that's literally what he does. I mean, he trades slaves.
Wait, he went into politics.
Yeah.
He went into politics as a retirement plan.
Yeah.
That has like the same energy of Usain Bolt saying, "Yeah, I want to work for Liverpool Football Club," as a retirement plan. Like, it has similar energy to it. It's like,
I mean, the dude just loved trading slaves. Like, he does it for 16 years, and then he just says, "You know what? I'm tired of enslaving people. I'm gonna go into politics," which is slightly different.
Yeah.
And it may surprise you to know that he was a Tory MP.
What?
Yeah.
what?
Really?
Really? A hyper-capitalist? A Tory? I never would have guessed.
And you know what's funny as well is that he became a Tory MP for Bristol in 1710, which is, funnily enough, the same year he left a massive endowment to that boarding school for the Society of Merchant Venturers. He served as a Bristol MP for 3 years, and then he chilled out in Surrey for 8 years until he died. He was aged 84, and he was in his bed far away from Bristol. And he never married, didn't have any heirs.
Vol soaking.
Yeah, so he left a considerable fortune in land to his nephew, who is also named Edward Colston.
His large adult nephew with the same name as
Yeah,
him.
is it Edward
Nice.
Colston? And he's also a Tory MP, but for Wells instead of Bristol. He had the same name. He was a Tory MP, and he was an honorary freeman of the Society of Merchant Venturers.
This fucking society. Swear to God.
Anyway, after he died, after a long career of increasing human suffering for profit,
As you do.
and donating money to causes coincidentally connected to the same groups that give him political and social power.
Of course.
Completely coincidental, of course.
Edward requests that he is buried in the true good Christian way. To quote his will and testament, he wished to be buried simply without pomp. A final request that he was denied.
Nice.
His body
Hell
was
yeah.
carried from Surrey to Bristol, and he has a massive fuck-off monument in All Saints Church, designed by James Gibbs, one of the most influential British architects of all time, and he was sculpted by a Flemish artist, John Michael Risperick. I'm sorry if I've got that wrong, but I'm just going to show you. This is one of the most decadent. This is probably one of the most decadent sculptures that I've ever seen. I'll put it in but we don't have time to unpack that chat. You just have to witness this. Put a link in the description.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, with the other things.
Oh my fucking God.
Oh my
Buried
god.
simply without pomp.
Sculpt me like one of your French girls, Jack. Sculpt me like one of your French girls.
Wait,
I like, look
where's
at
this? Where's this? Sorry.
this is an All Saints church in Bristol.
Right. Okay. Sorry, I'm just. It looks like something I've seen in London or something, like Buckingham or whatever.
Oh yeah, there's that Shakespeare one that looks exactly the same, but it was Shakespeare, I think, where he's just reclining, you know, as if he's going, what?
For Shakespeare it works, but it doesn't quite work for Colston.
Yeah, I mean, Colston would have fucking hated this. This is what gets me about all of the memorials for this piece of shit slaver. Even he didn't want this.
Yeah, look, come on, people
This-
who don't want us to statue down. Look, we're just doing what the guy wanted, okay? Can you deny him his dying wish?
He would be the first to cheer it going in the fucking lake, because
So
he hates this shit.
So what you're saying is, right? He is Robert E. Lee of Britain. I don't want a statue made of me, said Robert E. Lee, and then
Many
statues of Robert E. Lee exist.
It's the same thing with Margaret Thatcher as well. When she died, she said specifically she didn't want a state funeral. She just wanted to go quietly as a citizen. And what do they fucking do? The Tory party, they gave her a massive state funeral that like makes international news. I mean, and they make an insultingly soppy historical movie about her life, which she would have hated with every fiber of her cold, dead being.
Oh wait, is that the one
So-
with Cheryl Streep?
No, I mean Meryl Streep,
Meryl
whatever her
Streep.
name is. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it's fucking shit. It's the worst. Fucking-
I've
Even she would have hated it. It's insultingly bad. Like, this is the thing that gets me about. I mean, the Colston discourse and the Margaret Thatcher discourse and the Robert E. Lee discourse. This doesn't really have anything to do with the people involved, as shitty as they were and how much they don't deserve to have all this memorialization. Even they didn't actually want it. So none of this pomp and ceremony is actually for them. It's for a different agenda. And actually, to go on a tangent, did you know that Margaret Thatcher was an honorary member of the Society of Merchant Venturers?
Oh my fucking god! This fucking society! Something is up with this society.
Only honorary though. They didn't have any women who were members until 2003.
You know what? The Freemasons are a fucking psyop to
Hey,
cover for
fucking
the real
take that
fucking
back.
Illuminati.
Take that back.
No, you're a psyop, Alice, to cover for the real Illuminati, which is this fucking free venture merchant society.
You know what? You're absolutely right. It's just a bunch of drunk people, honestly, that just do charity work and do reasonable things. But you know.
Yeah, look, CIA psyop. You're not doing any of the evil stuff. These are the people actually doing the evil stuff.
Now here's where it gets interesting. And I do mean that literally because like before it's like, you know, you slave owner, and it's like the actual history of the memorializations of this guy is way more interesting than the actual guy. To be honest, I'm not even kidding. The Wikipedia page for Edward Colston is shorter and less interesting than the Wikipedia page for his statue.
Hey, don't knock that Wikipedia page. I vandalized it myself.
I think it's been re-edited.
It's been re-edited.
I mean, even re-edited, it's fucking wild.
Look, vandalizing statues, mini brain. Vandalizing Wikipedia pages about statues, that's the real giga brain shit.
But yeah, currently the Edward Colston Wikipedia page is once again not protected, so you know what that means.
Oh no, I sure hope that nobody edits it to be embarrassing. That would be terrible.
Yeah, like Edward Colston likes ankles.
Well, judging by that picture of his memorial, I think he does. Certainly likes his own ankles.
He's actually off screen looking at a woman's ankles right now. That's where he's looking.
Yeah, but well, anyway. Actually, I did have to do further digging. Because as wild as the Wikipedia is, that's still not the whole story, and I did actually have to do some real reading from historical societies.
Ooh.
And it is mental. Anyway, the controversial Edward Colston statue that was originally erected in the centre of Bristol, that has since been yeeted into water, was erected in in 1895, a full 174 years after Ed's death. Now, you might be wondering why it took so long after his death, like the many Confederate statues peppered around America that were created as a backlash against the growing civil rights movement. But it turns out Colston underwent something of a reinvention during the Victorian era. In Bristol, historical figures like Colston were being mythologized as icons by the wealthy business elites who wanted to establish new traditions that made their role in society look a lot better than they actually ever were. He was selected to represent the economic, social, and political perspectives of Bristol businessmen who were essentially mythologizing him. And I do mean quite literally mythologizing him. There was like so many weird tales that erupted out of their lies
Oh
about this
my
dude.
fucking god! Is he basically Bristol's like Steve Jobs or something?
I mean, kind of at the time it sort of was, but even weirder, it was almost a religious figure he became. He was like considered the good Samaritan. Not mentioning, the slavery stuff, of course, that was like they just overlooked that part. But it was this whole idea of this rich man, this self-made man, this
Oh
what
my god, it
historian
really is just
it re-
SuccessWin shit.
it is like historian Spencer Jordan wrote a study on this saying that the ability to depict Colston as both merchant prince and moral saint was thus central to the perpetuation of the tradition throughout the 19th century of basically, you know, propagating the bourgeois values of quote unquote good rich people, justifying their dominance by giving some money to the poors, but none of
Yeah.
the actual power. And even before the statue was created, the Bristol elites established parades, holidays, festivals that took on an almost spiritual angle as they became more elaborate over the years, all dedicated to Colston. They even have a bun named after him, the Colston bun. And they would eat these buns, at these special events,
Oh my god.
eulogizing this guy as this saint-like man. Strange proto-religious stories about Ed include ones that said that his body was disintegrated in 1843, more than 100 years after his death,
Oh my god.
because it was miraculously preserved by the spirit.
I guess the spirits didn't want to miraculously preserve it forever. After 100 years, they were like, nah, but never mind, fuck
I
this
was
guy.
like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, his fucking time is up. Regarding this dude again, he's boring, fuck this guy.
No, they just sort of like, they just read the Wikipedia page and they're like, he did what?
Yeah, he was cancelled among the spirits.
Others believe that Ed's charitable streak was created by discovering God, leading him to a pious road of Damascus conversion for philanthropy
What is
over
this,
profiteering.
Scrooge? Is this Scrooge?
Yeah,
A
just
dumber and got a slave owner?
Yeah, I mean, like,
and not charitable that
like,
much, really.
I know that like Scrooge is like seen as like the absolutely terrible, capitalist man, but like he wasn't a slaver at least.
Yeah, at the very least, like he was shitty, but like this guy.
And like he actually gave the money to Tiny Tim, not Tim from the Society of Merchant Venturers.
Yeah, not large Tim. Yeah.
And like this is one of my favorite ones. The myth that was created for him. There was a tale of a miracle. A dolphin was said to have saved one of Colston's
What?
ships by plugging a hole in the hull with its body.
Wait, is this one of the animated Titanic ripoffs? There's like a fucking whale who saves the ship along with like the magical dolphins. Is this just
Oh my god!
one of the Italian Titanic ripoff?
It might be
animated
one
movies?
of the. It might be where the myth came from. I'm not sure. I mean, maybe Colston is indirectly responsible for the Titanic animated ripoff.
One of them. There are two of them. They're both
The two of them.
Italians.
Jesus.
And they both have music in them. And they have, like, Mexican mice, both of them. It's
Oh
really
yeah,
strange.
I remember that. Yeah, that's very weird.
It is
I've
so
seen
strange that both of them have that. It's very weird.
Oh, but here's the best one though. There was rumors that there were samples of Colston's hair and nails that had been secretly conserved and were worshipped like holy relics by the
What?
Society of Merchant Venturers.
This fucking society is getting weirder and weirder. Someone investigate this shit. Can we get an like English Alex Jones on this?
I mean, you know what? You can just kind of like, I mean, you can assume that all of these myths are bollocks, right? They're just created by some rich people.
I don't know. I can't
believe
believe that last one. That sounds like the kind of perverse, weird shit rich people
You can
would do.
actually believe it because it turns out that the rumor about Colston hair and nails being worshipped by the Society of Merchant Venturers is partially confirmed.
I fucking knew it. Yeah, we need to get an English Alex Jones on this shit. We do absolutely.
We already have an English Alex Jones, and his name is Paul Joseph Watson.
No,
he's not as funny though.
he'd be on the side of the society.
Like, we need someone like Alex Jones who's willing to like infiltrate their secret ceremonies and watch them and shit. But for
This is what happened. Like the society denied the rumors for years, despite numerous reports that they had them on display in their merchants hall. And like, they had like school trips there, and apparently one girl went to the newspaper saying she was disgusted by seeing some hair and nails in one of the display cabinets. And a journalist in 2017 actually obtained a photograph of the hair and nails in a cabinet in the merchants hall that he took during a civic dinner that he attended.
Oh, no.
Like, when questioned, the representatives from the Society of Merchant Venturers at first denied the relics were held in Merchants Hall, but later admitted they were, claiming that they probably weren't Colston's.
I mean, they're moving the goalposts here. Like, they already lied once.
No, but the thing is, though, if they weren't Colston's, that raises so many more questions. Like,
who's on
did
it?
they murder someone? Like, are they keeping that? They should be able to account for hair and nails displayed in their merchants hall.
Like, I'm so confused. Like, it's okay if we killed someone. That's fine, Or like, somebody just said, yeah, that's my hair and nails and stuff. Like, again, weird, but it's fine.
No, if there was just some random person, that would be weirder than it being Colston, honestly. That would be so much stranger than it just being Colston.
Anyway, this statue that I was originally talking about was part of this historical revisionism, and it was proposed by James Arrowsmith, who was the president of the Anchor Society, which is one of the big four charitable organizations pushing all of this sinister shit that's going on.
Wait, Aerosmith, like the rock band?
No, Arrowsmith.
That's close enough, honestly. I think I'm picturing this as just
bring Aerosmith into this. They've done nothing wrong.
Members of Aerosmith.
Well, anyway, there was like four big charitable wings. There was the Anchor Society, the Dolphin Society, the Grateful Society, and the Colston Societies, including the Society of Merchant Venturers. And the statue, they were all behind, this creation of the statue, but mainly James Arrowsmith, who was just really at the forefront trying to get this statue made. And this was an early example of crowdfunding because Arrowsmith tried and failed multiple times to get Bristol citizens to get money to build this thing. And nobody wanted anything to fucking do with this. Like, it was very cringeworthy, to be honest. Over the course of a 2-year fundraising effort, appealing to charities, he gave extravagant dinners soliciting donations from various charities and rich organizations and Bristol citizens, where he'd pass around envelopes expectantly for huge donations, and only to be stuck at the end of these parties with a pile of empty envelopes.
I see.
This is, again, This is how I don't picture it. This is all of the Aerosmith band members standing around with their instruments at this party, just holding out envelopes. This was going on
I
here.
mean, this is great performance, but I'm not giving any money to this fucking
Yeah,
statue.
performance art. Yeah.
Anyway, over the 2 years, he raised £650, which was a lot of money at the time, but it was less than the amount needed for the casting and erection of his statue. But then the remaining balance of 150 just before the deadline.
Wait, you my guess here. It's the fucking society, isn't it?
No,
No.
it was paid by a mysterious anonymous donor described as
Wait, that's even weirder.
as a gentleman who had been one of the promoters of the design. AKA, it was Aerosmith. I mean, it's clearly fucking Aerosmith. Like, he paid it.
Yeah.
You know, he does the thing where, like, you know, he just like pays into his own Kickstarter, you know, for like when it's not going very well. Anyway, it was unveiled on the 13th of November, 1895, a date which has been known for some time in the city as Colston Day. Further funds were raised after the unveiling, including funds from the Society of Merchant Venturers.
Oh, fuck.
There
Here
they
they
are.
are. Here they are.
There they are. There they
Fucking
are.
knew they were gonna come into this shit.
And this was the end results. I'll post it in the chat again. You know, this is what the statue originally looked like.
So this is the statue, right?
This is the statue that, you know, is causing all of the fuss in my country at the moment. Now, there's a lot of things to say about this. I'll describe a little of what it looks like. Ed's on a plinth with a walking stick, looking as if he's deep in thought, thinking about all those slaves he's shipped. Ah, jeez. I think I forgot some of those slaves. Dang. It's not as much human suffering as I could be causing. I'll get him next time. Now, I just want to point out that this wasn't like this became a popular statue on Landmark. Like I said, with the failed crowdfunding, like nobody actually wanted this fucking thing. And another thing that annoys me about it, that just really annoyed, like, it's peppered with the charitable org. You can tell that this is peppered with all of the elites that this was pandering to and promoting. Like, the thing that really pisses me off is that the Dolphin Society, which has since said that, oh, we didn't have any, you know, involvement in Colston. Oh no. You know what those fish down there are supposed to be?
Don't say dolphins. I refuse to believe
dolphins.
that.
they're dolphins.
No,
They're
that
dolphins.
is not
They're
anywhere
dolphins.
near
They're supposed to be dolphins. I know.
No, I
Look
refuse.
at what it said. Look at what it says on the Wikipedia page. Detail on one of the dolphins. Now, for anybody who can't see what we're seeing,
believe that's a
that
dolphin.
is not a dolphin.
That is not a dolphin.
I know.
I don't know. I don't know what fucking Lovecraftian abomination this is. This is like the statue the guy found in the short story Dagon. Like, this is what he saw that made him lose his mind at an island. That's what he saw. This is the fish people of Dagon.
I've been playing a lot of Darkest Dungeon these days, and that looks exactly like the fish people that I've been fighting. Anyway, look at I've also made a link to the Dolphin Society, which is one of the big 4 charities, and look at their fucking logo.
That's not a dolphin either.
Exactly, it's exactly the same, not dolphin.
It's the same, not dolphin. It's the same Lovecraftian abomination.
Like, they fucking did. This is the thing that, like, you read down, it's sort of like saying, well, you know, we recognize this accomplishments, but we didn't like profit off the slavery or the historic revelation. You know, we recognize the slavery thing, and it's like, it's right fucking there. Like, their emblem is right fucking there. I mean, that's the reason why those not dolphins are there.
I don't know. You were established in 1748. Pretty suspicious.
But they were seafarers. They were sea merchants. They dolphins look like. Surely.
Yeah, but the link you said, it like literally the first word here is Edward Colston. Like, this is they're like tying themselves to Edward Colston here.
Yeah, I know they kind of are and aren't, because it's really it's like a really sort of wishy-washy say, like, yeah, you know, we were established then, and you know, we may have, you know, Edward Colston wasn't a nice guy, but you know, it's all right now. You know, just, you know, get over it. You know, just move on. Because it is like, Yeah, because all of the charities involved like had to reckon with their past because, like I said, after hundreds of years of myth making, actual historians looked into it and it started to become apparent that, Edward Colston wasn't the man that he was built up to be. In fact, he was actually a horrific slave owner responsible for a lot of atrocities. And,
No.
and that his charitable works were a little bit over exaggerated. And even if they weren't, it didn't compare to the evil that he inflicted upon the world in the pursuit of profit. And yeah, this went for a very long time. Again, like a lot of like charities, whose ancestry is like built on building this man up have basically had to go, I'm deleting it. I'm sorry.
Okay, a second here. Look, I'm at the Dolphin Society fucking webpage. I'm on the president's message. Most of it's fairly milquetoast. There's a line that got me really confused though. Okay, so the line reads, "This included being on committees for various Bristol All the People charities and being a quote unquote visitor for them." What's the quote unquote about? Why is visitor within quotation marks? What was she doing at the Old People's charities?
I mean,
That sounds really ominous. Why is the visitor in quotes?
that's what I said. They can't act normally. They can't, like, they're supposed to have PR, but yet they still manage to sound really sinister.
Most suspicious quotation marks. Why is
All
this
of
in
these
quotation marks?
charities have this.
Literally, all they have to do is like just all it's just gotta say is we reject Colston. We understand he done a shitty thing, and we're taking steps to, like undo the shitty thing. That's literally all they had to say. But no.
It's like, well, that's because they receive backlash when they do. Like the Colston Girls' School, which is now to be renamed
Mhm.
because of, which was in the bag before the
Mhm.
incident with the statue, but it's definitely going ahead now. Uh, they've been renamed, but they've like, and a lot of music venues as well, have been renamed because they don't want to
Yeah,
associate. I think
there's
was it Massive Attack that that didn't
might
want to play at a Colston venue.
might have been.
Yeah, and they receive backlash, and it's like, I don't know. The MP for like Bristol at the moment is like saying that he won't visit any venues that have had their name changed from Colston. So I guess he's just going to go to racist venues from now on. Yeah. So people like, I mean, I must say, I want to emphasize that Colston, all in all, is a load of hype. But a lot of people still have bought into this hype and are still losing their minds over this. But even from the very beginning, Bristolians just don't really give a fuck. Like, why would they? Like, this is they're a bit more sensible. Anyway, the real history of Edward Colston uh, started to come out around 1920 when the Reverend H.J. Wilkins wrote a chronology of Edward Colston and detailed the overwhelming evidence that Ed amassed his immense fortune via trading slaves. And as Wilkins wrote, we cannot picture him justly except against his historical background.
Oh, we stand this Wilkins guy. He sounds cool.
Yeah, he seems cool. He's a lot more woke in the 1920s than the Bristol MP at the moment.
Yeah.
And but most people just kind of, went, shut up, Wilkins.
Vote spelled SJW PC warrior. Who's your up for next, huh?
Stop being a woke skulled Wilkins. And like,
Yeah, who's he gonna come for next? Fucking PC police Wilkins.
So they kind of just like it kind of, while it is definitely a thing, there's not really that much growing dissent against this statue until the 1990s, where again, I think that it may be due to like, communications getting better and, activism, becoming more heated around this issue. But there was during the 90s, there was huge amount of campaigns and petitions calling for the removal of the statue, describing it as a disgrace, as whitewashing history, as celebrating slave owners. And In 1998, this culminated in slave trainer being scrawled on the statue's base,
Oh, that's
which caused
based.
stink.
That's based.
That's
Get it?
based on the based.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And in a 2014 poll, the local newspaper, the Bristol Post, 56% of the 1,100 respondents said it should stay, while 44% wanted the statue's removal. So basically, it was quite, it was kind of Brexit split. The ideas about this statue, like a slight majority were in favor of leaving it, but still a sizable minority wanted it to go. And Bristol's first elected mayor, George Ferguson, made a controversial statement on Twitter in 2013, saying that celebrations for Colston are perverse, not something I shall
Oh.
be taking part in.
Oh, base.
Oh man, yeah, it was just growing and growing and growing. And in 2018, Labour MP for Bristol West, Fagnum Debonair, sorry if I've mispronounced your name, wrote to
Yeah, if
Bristol.
you're listening to this.
I'm
Yeah.
so sorry for mispronouncing your name. I'm pretty sure that their name's Debonair, but wrote to Bristol City Council calling for the removal of the statue. And a petition to remove the statue garnered more than 11,000 signatures across Bristol.
How many people do live in Bristol?
Quite a lot bit. Like, how do the Bristol populations? Oh, yeah, it's like 400,000.
Oh, 11,000 is pretty impressive then.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I mean,
11,000 is a good percentage for like a petition. That's a really good percentage.
considering that it was
Mhm.
like, just council matters as well, that's impressive because no one fucking cares, normally. Anyway, in 2018, it developed even further by an art installation of a slave ship being erected in front of the
Oh,
statue.
that's
Look at that.
fucking good.
I will show you. Yeah,
Oh,
look at
that's
it.
so fucking good.
The statue could stay if that was like, a permanent fixture.
Yeah, I
That
usually
would've been
think
amazing.
I usually think it's really dumb when like centrists go like, oh, what if we put another statue next to it with the opposite message? That I usually think that shit is like really dumb, but this is fucking based and good.
Yeah.
This
It remained there. It remained there for some months, but it was removed. Aw.
fucking sucks.
It was to
Ah.
mark Anti-Slavery Day in the UK as well, so that was like double based.
Yeah,
And
this is really based.
but after that, another artistic intervention saw a ball and chain attached to the statue. So, like, what I'm saying is, this wasn't just a random act of violence from the Antifa super soldiers. Like, Bristolians have hated this statue and what it represents for a very long time and have been, often fucking with it and protesting against it for at least 3 decades.
Yeah.
So, just to give some
And-
perspective.
And that's just the reported and recorded ones.
Exactly.
Like, I'm sure it's near to some pubs, and I'm sure somebody's urinated on it. Or spat at it, Like-
The crazy thing is as well is that the Bristol City Council trying to address it without removing the statue has been like a very weird thing as well. Like they tried to put a plaque up to add to the public knowledge about Colston.
Oh, the plaque
so-
shit is so fucking weak. There are so many
Yeah.
American centrists who gone about that too. It's so fucking weak.
They did this with the statue as well. They
No one fucking reads plaques on statues. No one does it.
I've played Skyrim. I read the plaques, I read the flavor text.
Skyrim is another thing. I do that too, but in real life, nah, miss me with that shit.
But the thing is, yeah, no one reads the fucking plaques, but they couldn't even let them have a fucking plaque about it being weird because they reworded it to mention that he was a Tory MP and, he played an active role in the enslavement of 84,000 Africans, 12,000 of which were children. And yeah, he'd also the plaque said that he defended the city's quote-unquote right to trade in enslaved Africans. And also with the caveat on the plaque, Bristolians who do not subscribe to his religious and political beliefs were not permitted to benefit from his charities. It's quite a bold fucking plaque.
Yeah, that's like no
Yeah.
one's gonna read that shit, but like it's still a decent gesture.
You know what's great, because that's a pretty bold plaque. The Society of Merchant Venturers objected to the wording,
Fuck.
and a Bristol Conservative councillor called it revisionist and historically illiterate. A second
Yeah.
version,
A fucking wait, this guy a Tory, right?
yes, he's a Tory
Yeah,
MP, of course he is.
Tory MP has no fucking business calling anyone else historically illiterate. Like it kind of goes with the job.
Oh, anyway, it's so weird because the Society of Merchant Venturers, you may be surprised to hear, while probably keeping some human remains in their cabinets, they
Yeah.
have been behind the efforts to keep the statue there. Like even to this day. And another fun fact of it,
Even to this day, what do they want to fish it up?
yeah, well, they oh my god. They rewrote the plaque to remove mention of slavery and the fact that he was a Tory, which it's weird detail that, it was offensive to mention that he was a Tory MP, even though I would say that would be.
Yeah, stop making our statue of a politician political. This is a political statue. Stop politicizing this very political topic, everyone.
Yeah, the third and final version was written by the society, by the way. Basically, a final version of the plaque mentioned that he was a slave owner, but didn't mention how many of those were children, and didn't mention that he was a Tory MP. And that was sort of in between. Like, they were fine to mention that he was a slave owner, but, bigged up his charitable foundations and just, like, put a blurb at the bottom. However, after the plaque was cast, a statement from the mayor's office called the final wording unacceptable, claiming that Rees had not been consulted and promised to continue work on a second plaque. So it didn't even get the plaque. That was sanitized.
Oh well.
And, oh. Actually, here's a final word, because the Society of Merchant Venturers have been behind all of the efforts to keep this fucking thing standing.
Who knows what else they've been behind?
Exactly. But I just want to leave you with, because after all of this, I'm feeling kind of a little bit wiped, and you probably all know what happened next. Like, after,
Water.
as one brave Bristolian said in a tweet about it, they went through all of the proper channels in order to get this statue taken down. So now they've thrown it in a proper channel.
Nice.
Stay classy, Bristol. I love you.
Absolutely, that's great.
And yeah, it's, after being failed to be resurrected by white supremacists who tried to fish it out the lake with like fucking fishing rods, which is just the best. It's now been taken away and is put, in storage, and will be displayed in a museum.
Wait, did they succeed in fishing it up?
Yeah, they succeeded in
that
fishing it out. They
sucks.
won't
That
investigate, any deaths inside the lake, but they will fish out this fucking statue, and I'll give you a nice little parting shot.
Wait, what was that about
Already.
the depths with the water now?
Oh yeah, it came under criticism. Like a Muslim girl like died mysteriously in the river. Like, apparently just like she wandered into the lake by herself, which isn't considered. Yeah, and the police were like, yeah, we're satisfied with that explanation, and
Sure.
it can't possibly be a racially involved killing. Anyway, this is our boy Ed.
Amazing.
That's where he currently sleeps.
I'd be happy if he's still sleeping with the fishes.
No, you think you find he's sleeping with the dolphins. Those like
the quote unquote dolphins, yeah, the Dagon style dolphins.
And yeah, I think that, because the heat has been on the Society of Merchant Venturers because apparently they've been blocking and rewriting a lot of the things that have been going on just to keep this fucking thing, relevant and on a pedestal. In a statement in 12 June, they said that the fact that if the statue has gone is right for Bristol. To build a city where racism and inequality no longer exist, we must start by acknowledging Bristol's dark past and removing statues, portraits, and names that memorialize a man who benefited from trading human lives. Would you like to know, what the Society of what the Society of Merchant Venturers first ethnic minority member was? Like, how long ago?
Absolutely, I do. Absolutely.
2020. This year.
Oh my god.
2020.
Yeah, they were finally getting cancelled for not having any token minorities.
Yeah.
We're fine with being one guy in here.
I mean, I will say this about the society, as shady as they are, and possibly, got some unclaimed remains that need to be accounted for. They know how to read a room, at least. Bristol's MPs and the Sun, who are publishing, the names and faces of the people allegedly responsible for fly tipping this piece of shit into the water. They don't know how to read the room, because the moral of this story is Bristolians don't give a fuck about your racists. They don't give a fuck about your historical revisionism. All of this effort that was placed on canonizing this man is failed, and it should fail. And I hope that it rots in a warehouse somewhere.
I hope that it gets thrown in the river a second time.
Yeah, I think it would have been great.
Someone needs
Just
to
make
take it
that
out.
tradition.
Someone needs to take it out on a boat and drop it in the middle of the ocean so it'll be as hard as possible, like a mafia-style sea funeral.
Just wrap it in some bin bags. So you didn't see nothing.
Hell yeah.
Rest in fucking pieces, Edward Colston.
Hell yeah.
So, next topic.
Right. So, for a change of pace, I'm gonna talk about something that happened in my country, Sweden, instead of being a filthy freeaboo all the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. Making big progress
gotcha.
here. Yeah, this is some fairly recent statue drama from here, but it's much dumber than a lot of the other statue drama, because this isn't political. This is about Sportsball.
Oh no.
Sportsball statue drama is what we're talking about here.
I love Sportsball. My city loves Sportsball. We nearly called ourselves Sportsball City.
Yeah. So, the year is 2017. Swedish artist Peter Linde has just finished his new piece. It's a 3-meter tall bronze statue of Sweden's most famous soccer player, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He is shirtless, his arms out in a victory pose, standing on top of a world map that symbolizes his international success. The statue will stand outside of Friends Arena in Stockholm, the biggest stadium in Scandinavia. And yeah, our biggest stadium is called Friends Arena. We're really wholesome people here. Zlatan himself feels pleased that his likeness is being turned into a monument. When you come to New York, you have the Statue of Liberty. When you come to Sweden, you have the statue of Zlatan, he writes, humble as ever. There is a problem, though. Kind of a big one. The statue is too heavy for the ground outside of Friends Arena to support it. In the years Peter had been working on this project, no one had taken that into account or stopped to consider that. He'd been working at least a year on this thing, with the intention of, I'm gonna place it outside this arena, and did not bother to consider the weight of it. Great job.
Oh dear.
So now Linde has a large statue of Zlatan standing in his backyard, and he has nowhere to put it. He doesn't know what to do with it. It's gonna stand there for years. He doesn't know where to put it. So an obvious choice would be Zlatan's home city, Malmö, where he began his career. But their culture board had already made it clear they didn't want it.
It's another group of people who don't want the fucking statue.
Yeah, the culture board were just nah, we'd rather not. So Linda and company couldn't really think of anywhere else to put it, though, so they just kept nagging at Malmö about it until they basically went, oh, fuck it, right, we'll take the damn statue, just leave us alone. So now, after 2 years of the Zlatan statue standing idle in Linda's yard, it would finally have a home. Over 1,000 people, including Zlatan himself, were present at the ceremony where the statue was unveiled. Around the statue, stone engravings with Zlatan's championship titles were raised. There were several misspellings on these plaques, including World Cup being spelled as World Gup, and Champions being spelled as Hampions. Again, they had 2 years to figure this shit out, and they still fucked up. The statue was just standing in a guy's backyard for 2 years. They had 2 years to work on this. And we ended up with World Gup and Hampions. Great job, guys. So, at the press conference, when asked about whether he thought there was any risk of vandalism, Zlatan confidently responded that his statue would be protected by his fans. This would turn out to be a tragically ironic statement.
Oh no.
Yeah, because a few months after the statue was raised, Zlatan became a part owner of Hammarby, a soccer team from Stockholm. Now, something you need to know about Sweden is that people from Stockholm are generally pretty despised by the rest of the country. Like, seen as stuck up, out of touch, generally rude. This definitely extends to sports teams because Malmö's soccer scene really doesn't like people or teams, especially teams from Stockholm.
Yeah, I think that's pretty universal with sports. Like they don't generally like people or other teams.
Yeah, but
I can relate.
generally, even outside of sports, people from outside Stockholm dislike Stockholmians. So this multiplied with both the sports factor of different cities team and just people they generally hate otherwise. So the retaliation for this was swift and severe. Under the cover of night, a masked group of individuals went to the statue. They threw flares at it, wrote threats on the ground, all the while shouting things like "burn him down" and "Judas." This was investigated as a hate crime because statues of Swedish footballers are apparently a protected class.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
It is a hate crime.
I'm sorry, but bronze isn't a race.
Yeah. So authorities put a fence around the statue, but predictably, a mere fence was not enough to stop the rage of a football fan scorned. During the next 2 weeks, someone broke the protective barrier and took a saw to the Zlatan statue's leg. Now, they didn't manage to cut it off, but they did much damage, so much so that the structural integrity of the statue was compromised. This time, the city vowed to get guards to protect the statue. And they clearly didn't do that. Or either that or the guards just sucked at their job, because not 2 weeks after that, the statue was painted silver, and its nose and toe were both successfully sawed off.
You know what? I mean, I'm sorry, but Bristol has vandalism down over Stockholm. This is kind of pathetic, to be honest. You know.
No, come on. We paint this guy silver and cut off his nose to make him look like fucking Voldemort. Come on. This is pretty good.
I don't know. It just makes me. Basically, when you're owning someone, it's like, yeah, we're gonna tip over their mailbox and leave a sandwich on their front lawn. It's like, okay, I'm annoyed, but I'm confused more.
Oh, sorry. Have you not seen the photos of people leaving sandwiches and roses for Churchill's statue?
What?
Fucking London.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Like offering it to a fucking god, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to get a sandwich when Churchill comes out of the shame cube that the government's put him in. I want to get a sandwich and I want to go up to Churchill and feed him a sandwich. It's like, there you go. There you go, turkey.
Yeah.
Finish your bologna.
Yeah. So continue about Zlatan's statue. Go on.
Yeah. Before I go on, in terms of us being juvenile, a thing a lot of people did were put toilet bowls around him, on his head and on his arms. Yeah,
rude.
Yeah, dude, we got him. Because the sports team he's working for, Hammarby, is also called Bajen, which, and if you take Bajen and turn it into like Bajare, which would be like someone in Bajen, that also means pooper. So like that, therefore the toilet bowls. See, they got
Owned.
them. They fucking
Owned.
owned them. Yeah. They paint the statue silver. They cut its nose and toe off. But this was nothing though, compared to what would happen a month later. So clearly the soccer stands had leveled up their skills in sawing, because when they came for his legs a second time, they did not miss. His legs were severed at the ankles, and the Zlatan statue finally fell at this.
Holy
As he
shit.
lay on the ground, amidst the crumpled fence that was supposed to protect him, a Sweden shirt was wrapped around his face so he could not breathe. This time, the damage was severe enough that the statue had to be moved. It was taken to an
jeez.
undisclosed location where Lindy could work on its repairs. I'm gonna send a photo here of the Zlatan statue on the ground to contrast with the photo you got here of our guy.
Oh, about Eddie boy.
Fucking owned. Oh, Daddy was saying about flipping up to vandalism. Look at this.
Well,
Look at what we did.
Bristol was like really, actually, in comparison, was really kind to this, slave owner, who
Yeah,
like
yeah,
caused
look at
suffering.
what
But
we
this is
did.
like a sports personality, and it's like, man,
And the
they
person's
fucked
still
him up.
alive.
This guy, they
Yeah, this
really
guy's still
fucked him
alive, yeah.
up. Jesus. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
they really fucked him up. They were serious with the sauce and shit here, yeah.
That is. I'm just thinking, like, I'm looking at his feet now, and it's like someone has one of his toes. Look how
So,
big his fucking toes are.
So, Lee, did they ever find who done it?
No, they have not actually. But speaking of someone having his toes, someone did have his nose. And while the repairs were going on, Zlatan supporters, investigative journalists, and statue enthusiasts alike made it their mission to track down the missing nose. One woman found a lead online, a golden metal nose, and PJ Linday himself said it bore a very strong resemblance to his piece. But it turned out to just be a stock photo of a 17th century nose prosthetic. Yeah.
Oh my god.
So another person came forward, popular Swedish gardening show host John Taylor, who claimed that he had seen the nose hanging around someone's neck at a New Year's party. Yeah, someone just walking around with a fucking Zlatan nose around their neck.
Oh my
on a
god.
necklace.
Oh, the fucking balls. I
Yeah, the
love
fucking
it.
balls to vandalize this and then take this like fucking bronze nose. Everyone in the city probably knows what this is, because this was like big news, this Zlatan statue thing.
Oh, this boy takes trophies.
Yeah, this fucking baller, honestly. So John, being a Malmö supporter, was jokingly asked if he himself had an alibi for the night of the attack. He answered that if it was him, he would have used better tools. We stand popular Swedish gardening show host John Taylor here.
Jesus.
So the statue stood in Malmö for 107 days total, and during that time, it had cost taxpayers almost 250,000 kronor, which would be 20k in Britbang money.
Oh my god.
This will not be the final sum, as the repair process will be quite costly as well. Just a reminder, they didn't want this fucking thing in the first place.
You
Like
know what?
Peter gave them to them. Like Peter gave it to them as a gift. We just can't say that no one else wanted it, and it ended up costing taxpayers like it's gonna end up costing taxpayers at least 30k.
You know, at that point, I would cut my losses and just melt it down for something. Maybe melt it down into a giant nose and like commemorate it.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
Because yeah, I mean, this is the whole thing about statue discourse. Like, this is a running theme. Like, nobody fucking wants these things.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, no one fucking wants these things. Like, read a room, okay?
Yeah, like only Zlatan wanted this thing. Like everyone else didn't seem to care that much, honestly. Like no one in the country.
Just keep it in your back garden,
it.
Zlatan.
Yeah,
for real.
So after the summer, the statue will be placed back in Malmö, and some fear this will lead to provocation to more attacks. Only time will tell this fate of the Zlatan statue. Thank you. Short but sweet segment this time.
That was beautiful.
Right, so Alice, you got a statue of your own to talk about, yeah?
Okay, so my statue's been in the news. But first, we need to know about the guy. I introduce to you Earl Charles Grey II.
The tea boy.
He makes shit tea.
It's delicious. Shut up.
It's flowery.
I'm sorry, it's bad tea.
So, sired 16 kids.
Oh, fucking Chad.
So,
Wait, did he have all those kids with the same mom, with the same like woman,
Yes.
or?
yes,
Oh,
only one.
constant
Only
baby
one.
making going on there.
Only one is, not legitimate.
They really must have been like every opportunity they got, like to have all those kids. Like every 9th month, they just start making a new one.
As we'll find out, our boy Earl Grey has a pretty stressful life. So, let's begin. He was born. I know, shock horror, right? He was born in 1764 in Berwick, Northumberland.
1764, Berwick, Northumberland.
Yeah, he comes from like a kind of well-to-do family and stuff. So he's sent to Eton, but he's quite sick when he's going there. So he has to stay with a nurse, and the nurse takes him out to see a public execution of 7 Jews being hung for forgery.
geez.
What?
Oh,
I want to go to Alton Towers. No, even better.
I mean, executions were sort of a public sport at the time, but still pretty fucked
But
up.
that's fucked up. That's
Yeah,
really
so
fucked
fucked
up.
Yeah, it is fucked up. It gave him the nightmares for most of his life.
Oh, you don't say.
The only person at the fucking execution, everyone else just standing there like, woo, come on, hang a guy. And he's just the one person who goes, yo, guys, this kind of fucked up. Anyone else think this fucked up?
Bearing in mind he was on the nurse's shoulders.
Oh,
So
geez.
he can't
Like a fucking bear. Like, Jesus Christ.
This is like a fucking concert. He's being held up. Everyone else just going, woo, executions, execute a guy.
Meanwhile, he's just doing like the 500-yard stare.
If they had fan cams in those days, it would just be everybody going, yeah, hang on, and there's just this little boy crying on the shoulders of his...
So he gets educated in Eton, normal, posh boy education. He did make political connections. Eventually, he would get, involved in politics. And he butted heads with the establishment consistently.
Nice.
And I mean really consistently.
We stand an anti-establishment king.
Yeah, so Charles was, in fact, so hard to work with, King George IV refused to give him a cabinet position. Now, he was friends with somebody named Charles Fox, and they were like a very, pro-abolition, very pro-civil liberties kind of thing. They were sort of entangled in the movements of charterism and radicalism, which was a kind of basically like expanding the voting franchise, which Grey did manage to do. It was roughly around the time of the French Revolution.
Uh-oh.
And the government had passed like various acts called gagging acts, which basically prevented like any criticism of the government whatsoever.
Well,
Like-
that's definitely gonna prevent dissent. People are definitely not gonna react poorly to that.
Everyone loved that.
Yeah. I don't know. How about we ask the people of Peterborough?
Hey, people of Peterborough. What do you think?
Yeah, like, wouldn't it be a shame if, like, you all gathered for, like, a pro-democracy rally and then the British military just kills you all?
Yeah, that would be a shame, huh?
Yeah.
Anyways, about
was,
my rally in Petersburg next month. It's a pro-democracy rally. Anyone want to come?
Yeah. So, he was called on English during William Pitt the Younger's Reign of Terror.
Nice.
There was like various bills. Like eventually, basically, the culmination between Pitt and Grey's opposition to each other is like basically leaves Parliament. Just like goes, fuck this shit. I'm out. You're stupid. I hate you.
That's a direct quote.
Yeah, direct quote. I'm definitely not paraphrasing.
We never paraphrase here. Everything is a direct quote.
Yeah. So like he spent like a couple of years like, just like hanging out in like Northumberland and stuff. Just, being, cool and stuff, like just writing theory. Now, let's get to the one of his other great achievements. Helped write the bill that abolished slave trade in the British Empire,
Neat.
as
That's
well as Charles Fox and Lord Grenville.
Yeah, get fucked, Edward Colston.
Yeah, get fucked. Now, bearing in mind, the Whig Party was very pro-democracy, pro-liberty, anti-monarchy, and is literally descended from the Roundheads from the English Civil War, whereas the Tories were descended from the Cavaliers (brackets the Royalists) from the Civil War. So
So what you're saying is they were based. They were like,
yeah,
they freaking ruled.
basically, like if out of the two-party
Raised,
system,
epic, and bread pilled, huh?
yeah, basically, yeah, the Whigs were pretty based. But Charles was part of a faction called the Foxites, which were like more working classy. So that was like good, especially since he was the 8th Prime Minister. Here is where it gets fucking stressful. Have you ever like accidentally missed something on a important letter, or I don't know, a bill ending slavery in the British Empire?
Oh no! What did you do?
So there was an admission from it which would have rendered like the entire bill useless, and like
Oh no!
Lord Grenville and Charles and were just like, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit, we've got to get this done. We've got to get this done. It's like, what the fuck? We have to do this. It's like, has it been passed by a House of Commons? Shit, it has. Has it been passed by a House of Lords? Fuck. Has it got Royal Assent? Oh no, it's going to get Royal Assent. Holy fucking shit. We need to solve this fast. So it's just like,
These fucking idiots, I swear to God.
you got people like running about, like just like, okay, we have to quickly amend this bill like really quickly before it gets like Royal Assent and stuff.
They can make a sitcom out of this. They should make a sitcom out of this.
Yeah, they should. Like, there needs to be a biopic on Charles Grey's life. Honestly, it's like really good. Charles Fox, unfortunately, didn't get to see this bill like through, but like basically, it was like his lifelong career, basically. So that happened, and that was eventually gets all sorted out, and the bill is passed. It was like described as the Magna Carta for Africa and stuff. Like the egoed themselves up. Now, I want to point something out about this bill. It didn't abolish slavery; it just abolished the trade of it.
It's halfway there.
That's something. I mean, kind of abolishes at least some of the like financial incentive for slavery. It still doesn't like do anything that people already have slaves, which it should have. But
this was seen more as a stepping stone, even for the time, like for the people who were writing the bill and supporting the bill. That's enough for our king who art farting it up in heaven.
He done fuck on earth as he does in heaven.
Yeah. So time skip. We're going to June the 6th, 2020. Black Lives Matter protests are in full swing. Our boy Edward Colston has been chucked into the river, and this has given a lot of protesters some ideas, specifically about so what statues should we remove? Should we campaign for the removal of or toss in? Rather. Now in Newcastle there is the Armstrong statue, and there is the Earl Grey statue, and there is also a monument to the Second South African Boer War. Now, Armstrong was an industrialist, although my MP has defended him, claiming he's an industrialist. He is an industrialist that supplied guns to both sides of the American Civil War.
Both
King
sides.
shit.
Hashtag both sides.
Hashtag both sides. Both sides.
The
Look,
ultimate
Lincoln.
centrist.
Look, Lincoln, Jefferson Davis. They're both the same. Both the same.
Well,
They're
what he
both
was
the same.
doing is what the BBC describe as balance. You see, you have to
Yeah.
like give
It's
both.
fair and balanced, yeah.
So basically, on this website, Topple the Racists, like Earl Grey was listed on there. Now, given what we know, that's like, hey, how come? You know, how come? How come my boy Charlie? You know, why is he on there?
Yeah, it was a good boy. It's a good T-boy.
Yeah.
Why is he on there?
But the tea isn't good. Maybe he did good things, the tea is not good.
You know what, Lee?
I'm willing to die on this hill.
Your lane is over there.
What
Okay.
way was my lane?
Okay, so basically, the reason listed on the website is because his government paid the white slave owners and not the black slaves, which, to be fair, is an absolutely fair criticism. It was later removed though because of a few things. I just want to show you how tall the statue is of Grey's monument.
It's so big. I actually,
Right.
when I went to visit you as well,
Oh,
I was
wow.
like, you tried to show me
Jesus.
that, and I was like, where? And you're like, there. And I'm like, where? And I'm looking, like at normal building level, and then I just crane upwards and get a nosebleed by where Earl Grey is standing.
You get an anime nosebleed because you're just so attracted to Earl Grey.
It's true. I mean, he did fuck,
Yeah.
and I can see why.
So
I can't even see him.
Yeah, you
That's what he
can't.
looks
You can't
like.
see why. You can't see him.
So basically, quite literally, Earl Grey's statue is above all the buildings. This is
We
quote
stand
from
an extra king.
Yeah. So we locally call this just simply monument. There is a metro line that goes through the city, and it runs underneath him. Beside him is the shopping center, Eldon Square. Now, the statue itself has a very interesting history. It's been struck by lightning a few times, and
Oh,
in
you
one
don't
of those,
say.
and one of those times, the head fell off and landed on the back of itself, looking up at the sky.
Oh,
wow.
Jesus. That's witchcraft, baby.
Now, what do you think the city done with this head?
I don't know. Did they just like repair it like normal?
No.
Okay, did they do the cool metal thing and replace the statue head with like a goat skull?
No.
that'd be cool.
They got the broken head, put it back on, and kept it on there, and it was a symbol of resistance during World War II.
Oh my god, that's PR done perfectly.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
actually
Shit. Oh Jesus.
we actually meant to separate the statue head. Actually, it's a symbol for something.
So, okay, some other things about the statue that I should mention. It's very commonplace for protests and counter-protests to happen because of its central location. It's very easy to say.
Well, I mean, you can see it. I mean, that you call it monument because they know which one.
Yeah.
It's hard to miss.
Yeah. And it's not just, pesky lefties. Like, you even get, sometimes religious people will use it. I've seen Muslim groups use it. I've seen far right people use it. Far left groups and stuff like that. So like it's just generally accepted. This is the this is like the protest statue basically. Like this statue is where all the protests meet every weekend. So we've got all this information about Earl Grey, the statue, and why it was put on Topple the Racists. Okay, so June 6th, 2020, Black Lives Matter protests.
It's also give me a minute, give me a second here. It's also Sweden's National Day. Hell yeah! Woo!
Woo,
Never
Day.
mind, only me.
Okay.
It's not called an Independence Day. It's just our National Day.
Oh, you have a day just for bigging yourselves up. That's
Yeah,
nice.
everyone else had a Independence Day. We also wanted a day for ourselves, so we just made a day because Denmark had one and Norway had one, and we wanted one too.
That's such a Sweden thing to do.
Yeah, it is.
So the Black Lives Matter protests gather not like too close to the statue. They kind of give space for people to move about in the city, and they were practicing social distancing rules or wearing masks and stuff like that. Very by all accounts, very reasonable conduct given the context and stuff. And then the defenders of Newcastle set up a counter protest.
Fucking LARPers.
Yes, fucking LARPers. Which is on a British naval flag, and it's just got the words "Defenders of Newcastle" on it.
Or just written in biro or something.
Obviously, the Black Lives Matter protest was organised with the police's, thing, and I'm not 100% sure on the legality of the All Lives Matter crowd, but they were there, and a lot of them weren't wearing face masks, and a lot of them were making the situation very tense.
Yeah, they were like they the type of guy.
Yeah, sure.
Baldy head, gammon expression, very excitable, very angry.
Now, I don't have any timestamps for this, so I'm just trying to put it in an order that makes sense. So, the police then deploy 5 horses.
Oh, it's the horses. Is this the horses?
Yeah, the horses.
Oh.
So, these 5 horses include, hang on, I think there's 2 brown ones, 1 black one, and 2 white ones.
Do we know their names? I want to know the horses' names.
I don't know their names.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Can't believe you've done this. You let every horse girl down.
Oh dear.
All past and future horse girls have been let down.
Okay, we'll call one Dobbin, the other one Pinky, and the other one. Continue,
one is
Alice.
Button, one is Wheat, the last one is Jack. Okay, we've named them. Go on, Alice.
Okay. So, they set up towards the fascists. Basically the police set up a line formation, 1700 style, to protect the Black Lives Matter protests. And then a man walking by, I nearly said pie. A man walking by with a can of Stella Artois. Sorry, a box of Stella Artois.
A box of Stella Artois.
Wait, what the fuck is Stella Artois?
Stella Artois,
it's a beer.
It's a beer.
Oh, sure.
So, guy walks past, throws a can of Stella Artois at the police. Now, this man, interestingly about him, he's wearing baggy stuff.
Look, He was just trying to do the Pepsi commercial thing. He was just trying to go up and offer them a cold beverage to establish peace and partying and good vibes.
Yeah.
It's the Geordie version. Yeah, I got some fucking Stella.
Yeah. So, the defenders of Newcastle start throwing smoke flares and bottles.
Wait, how the fuck did they get smoke flares? How did they get smoke flares? What the?
A lot of the people defending the statues, is proven in London, are ex-army. So,
Oh. Well.
Yeah.
Well then.
And obviously in between all this, what they're chanting, by the way, is in a like football chant, they're saying, "You're not English, you're not English," like that basically, and all lives matter. So like on the like racism scale, we're like, if the scale was at 10, they're like at 12. So the riot police are deployed, and they set up a formation, and basically tensions escalate, police violence occurs, 11 people are arrested. But one of them is unlawful.
Oh.
Oh, yes. So, there was a witness, a person of colour who was there, like, to observe. Okay, I should probably explain something about protests in the United Kingdom. Although nobody trusts them, there's a special police type of unit that is deployed called a police liaison. And this is basically meant to act as a lines of communication between protesters and police.
Sure.
They're distinguishably known in like crowd by the light blue visibility jackets, and have the word police liaison written on the back. So it's not like they didn't have an opportunity to air their grievances with the police in a polite, civil manner, in an honourable manner.
An honourable manner.
Yeah, no, just I must say this does seem. I mean, if they start like chucking smoke bombs, I would say that that pretty much ends all peaceful negotiations. To be honest, on either side, it's like if you're bringing artillery to a protest, it's generally not a good sign.
So, this protester was arrested, and his friends got followed from Byker, which is like a town in the city of Newcastle. And this arrest was made like relatively recently. So basically, this individual, who we're going to name John Smith. John Smith approached the police as a witness, because they were calling out for witnesses. Because, like, the fascists, like, did, a unnecessary escalation of violence.
As you do.
They actually got people, like, hurt and stuff. Oh, the fascists threw a bottle at the horse, by the way.
No!
That's some crimes cannot
Not
be forgiven.
Not my favorite of the horses.
So basically, they were calling for witnesses to try and, like, arrest, like, people who were presumably the people who brought fucking smoke flares and tossed, like, glass bottles at police.
And frightening the horses, the bastards.
Yeah. One bottle was thrown first, and then a second one was. The second one is when they started to, like, arrest people. So basically, friend goes driving to the police station, and then some police arrest him to check for his insurance.
Oh no, this is not good. So I mean, they wouldn't need to like. I mean, that's not a thing in our country. That's just not a thing they should be asking.
Are you sure?
Like that is just immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty. Yeah.
So
yeah, this is shifty.
so this so John Smith gets arrested. And then I'll just call him Jack. Jack films this on his phone. John Smith basically, puts his hands up and stuff and is like, complying with police and just, I'm not giving like sufficient resistance to be, beat up or whatever. So Jack goes, gets his other friend, and then they go to like check out what's happening. Now, the two police officers that walk out the building are the same ones who arrested John. And they are sneering.
Oh no.
So Jack and his friend leave. And then, like, they just, start to head back to Biker. And then they're being followed.
Is it by the police?
Yes.
Same people?
Yes. And basically, they're arrested again. And this only happened like, few days ago. I'm gonna say like 3 days ago. That being like the 22nd or the 21st. And this was after the second protest, by the way, which they were, also going to be heading to. So yeah. Anyway, all cops are bastards, even the British ones.
All coppers are bastards, yeah.
All bobbies are bastards. ABAB.
ABAB, baby.
Yeah, I think that's my segment done. Oh, actually, wait, no, I got another like thing to add as well. So
Alright,
I was meeting with my friend in town, and we went to the St. George's statue. Like, presumably because there wasn't going to be like a lot of protest there, especially since like it's like a greeny kind of area, and generally like the statue itself is more associated with those who have fallen in all wars. So it's, like nobody's going to be like, protesting to have it down. Anyway, there were 3 buff dudes trying to stare everyone down, and they deployed 5 police officers to defend the statue.
Like, this is what gets me about the statue discourse. Like, it's just become a thing where, thugs go and like just glower at people from statues, which nobody is going to hurt. No one cares. Like, there's just an
Yeah.
excuse for them to go in public and like say, "Oh, you better not touch this statue," and like, and just you need to respect our authority. They're like, all right, and it's like a fucking Paddington Bear statue. It's like it has no relation to anything that Black Lives Matter is talking about, or anything related to what we're talking about with Edward Colston. Like, it's just a show of
Yeah.
power against, it's just a show of white supremacy, basically.
Also, can we just like briefly talk about like this right-wing fear of the like Earl Grey statue being toppled?
I think it's safe.
Now, the statue is quite high up in the sky, so the likelihood of it being toppled down, basically, like, it's near zero.
Oh, they're gonna need like 100 people climbing up the base of that with saws and standing around sawing at it, and then it's gonna
Well, you
crash
see,
into a building.
what'll happen is that George Soros is gonna lend us a crane, and we'll go up there, and then we'll remove
of
it.
course.
Yeah. So,
No, we removed the pillar as well. The pillar is coming down, and it's coming down violently.
there is a way to climb up the statue from the
Ooh.
inside. There's like a blue
Ooh.
little door.
Secrets. Secrets.
But like you need a key.
We're gonna get that key.
Yeah. This has been my collage of events that I've managed to piece together of the events of that day.
Yeah. So that is it for this episode of the Lot to Unpack Here podcast. Alice, you want to tell us where we can find you on the internet?
You can find me at RebelGender.
And Alex?
Hi, I'm Alex, and you can find me at Obscuracom, and in real life, just encased in bees, because they won't leave me alone.
Alright, and you can find me at bewildered_b on Twitter or doing anti-wasp action. So thank you very much for tuning into this episode, and if you enjoyed it, please do rate, comment, and subscribe. You can also tune in to see us play some Dungeons & Dragons on Saturdays at the Communes and Comrades YouTube channel, if that's something you're interested in. Until next time, folks, have a good one.
Oh, the person who, fuck's sake, I've been spending the entire...
What's going on out there? Do you guys have a card chase going on? What's up?
Let's say I'd like to introduce our guest on the podcast, the fucking Popo of Newcastle.
Yes, the Tyne and Weir Police of West Newcastle. Thank you for interrupting the podcast through multiple times when I tried to give a semi-reasonable view of the events that involved you. Fuck you.
Go into pro in action.